These ETFs have accumulated 769,510 Bitcoin, which is 150,510 Bitcoin more than the day they launched on January 11th. There's been 37 trading sessions, which means that they're now on average accumulating 4,068 Bitcoin per day. And at the current Bitcoin price value, that's $254 million a day on average. $257 million a day on average. Just think about how ridiculous that is as far as how much Bitcoin is being sucked up.
And that right there is a really good introduction to what I want to talk about today, which is primarily the idea of Hyperbitcoinization. So 222 day, we will talk about a lot of things that I don't normally like to talk about because I'm not a fan of Bitcoin, but I do think that it is extremely important for where we are about to go. Right now we are at about 63,580, and that is probably only headed up. We did peak at around 64,200, and I will explain why that is important here in a bit. Our time of accumulation is over, and the official bull run is here. Next week could be interesting. I am recording this on March 3rd of 2024, so it is about 18 hours or so before we will begin to actually see what the impacts over the last couple of days have been. But we do know that OTC desks have no Bitcoin to sell. They are done. They don't have any more options, and this is what we have been waiting for, and it's happened a lot quicker than we anticipated. They will have no choice but to hit exchanges as hard as they possibly can to keep up with the insane amount of demand as a result of all of these Bitcoin ETFs. As of a couple of hours ago, we only had 171 Bitcoin left in the Binance sell wall at 64K. And that got touched on a little bit, and it did bring the price down to about 62K. However, we almost instantaneously came back up. We should be prepared to see an all-time high sometime this week. Right now, our ETFs are about 0.1% of the total assets under management of all of our institutions involved in ETFs, which will go up to about 1% sometime in 2024. They know exactly what will happen if they begin to hit full force on exchanges with 500 million plus of new capital per day, each and every day. They also know that it is inevitable. If the price goes up, they have to spend more to back the funds at a fixed percentage. There's only one outcome, and that is up. Here is a visualization of what Blackrock has been up to. So on the left side, we have all of our Bitcoin coming out of Grayscale, and it goes right into Blackrock. They are in charge of this new post-ETF crypto economy right now. And I have done a couple of videos over the last few weeks or so now where I did talk about how Blackrock has been preparing to do exactly this and where we can expect it to head. So if you're interested in that, I have some content on that too. BlackRock did 1.2 billion in their Bitcoin ETF after hours on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday so far, and that was actually from about 12 hours ago. So it has probably only gone up a whole lot. What takes everyone off guard is a massive move due to multiple factors that are now compounding into an explosive mixture of overwhelming demand versus low supply. In only 2 months, a traditional market move and a new institutional demand source. And that is in response to this right here on how the Bitcoin halving is not priced in.
The Bitcoin halving is not priced in. In each of the post-halving periods, we've seen dramatic increases towards the upside. You can see here in 2012, the halving event took place, and you can see that post-halving trend continuation in parabolic fashion followed after that halving event. Same can be said about the 2016 halving, and we also have the April 2024 halving just ahead, 2 months away at this point in the cycle. And we're probably going to also see a pre-halving retrace as well, but still it's always going to be ending with a parabolic rally towards the upside. So the halving isn't priced in. We also see that the scales are drastically changing across cycles, where what we thought was impossible in the past, what's going to be the case in this cycle? Maybe these increases by $20,000, $10,000, that's something we've not really had before. Maybe it's something we need to set ourselves up for.
And I am pretty much convinced at this point that we will see a new significant all-time high before we have a significant retrace that has occurred at about this point in time. However, that might not happen this time with the amount of institutional demand coming in. We just might not have enough supply of Bitcoin compared to the amount of demand coming in order to have that significant pullback happen before it decides to explode up. And I'm starting to think that these crazy ideas of pretty short-term Bitcoin price predictions might actually work out. Here we have an idea that says that we could see as high as about 200,000 each by about May of 2024. I did come across a couple of accounts that seem to be some Bitcoin whales who are probably also financial industry inside guys, but a lot of them have had to turn off DMs and were being relentlessly pursued by OTC desks, and they know how much Bitcoin they have. He was asked to name his own price, which is absolutely insane. And he was just told by a reliable source that there is no way in hell that they are going to be able to settle up all of the Bitcoin that they need to within the next 24 hours. Coinbase may have to pull coins from their vaults to make good on the ETFs, which makes sense because they are one of, if not the primary custodians for the Blackrock ETF. Get your coins off of exchanges now. It is escalating. In back channels and Telegram, a lot of us have been offered significant amounts of future Bitcoin to lend current Bitcoin to OTC desks. To his knowledge, absolutely no one has agreed, and most are increasing OPSEC in order to not be harassed. And that right there is important to hear in my mind, because it shows that all of these huge players are about to have to come in and pick up Bitcoin off of exchanges just to keep up with the amount of demand coming out of ETFs. And I put this here because it's a really good introduction into the Hyperbitcoinization content I'm about to explain. But under this admin, US debt is now increasing 1 trillion for every 100 days, which is I have a hard time expressing how absolutely horrific it is. Here is the post on Hyperbitcoinization that I was wanting to explain, and all of that content that came before this helps to explain how this idea actually has a lot of substance. And I don't agree with each and every part of this, and I will explain that, but it explains a lot of what is actually happening right now. So, is the US playing Bitcoin chess while the rest of the world plays checkers? Imagine you know the dollar endgame is near. You've crossed the debt event horizon, and all that is left is for the US monetary system to eventually implode in a sovereign debt supernova. What do you do? Wait for the inevitable? No. You accelerate everything and then exit scam into the next global reserve asset before the rest of the world even knows what hit them. Now, how does that work? Flood the world with USD, which is 100% fact. Increase interest rates. We have seen that happen in Europe and China. Provoke wars. In the meantime, blow up the crypto Ponzi's to prevent a lot of people from wanting to get in and get Bitcoin prices as low as possible. All of that happened in 2022, primarily because of FTX. Pull a sudden 180 on Bitcoin and get every American boomer, corporation, pension fund, etc. into Bitcoin as quickly as possible by way of Blackrock ETFs. While BRICS play around with their gold, China tries to hold its real estate Ponzi together, and the IMF is not exactly helping out. I begin to not agree here, but I will explain in a bit. The US rapidly monetizes its debt with printed dollars. Bitcoin goes to 10 million plus each. US sovereign debt goes to zero. US entities are protected because of their Bitcoin portfolio insurance. El Salvador becomes the Singapore of the West because here they have shown a lot of early adoption of turning Bitcoin into an official currency. Bitcoin becomes the new global reserve asset with the majority held by US entities. Bitcoin forces fiscal responsibility onto US federal government. Parasitic politicians die out, and the US returns focus to builders like Elon Musk and attracts global talent. Now imagine that this idea has even a tiny chance of actually playing out. If you are a competitor country, do you wait around to find out, or do you begin to get into Bitcoin immediately now that you see BlackRock going all in? We could be in the early points of a global Bitcoin accumulation that leads to Hyperbitcoinization. Countries wouldn't be accumulating for gains. They would be accumulating to ensure their wealth against the idea outlined above, which means that they wouldn't care about price, halving, or anything else. They care about exposure to the finite amount of 21 million coins. Reminder, they're all armed with money printers. And the first one to print their currency to buy Bitcoin gains the largest advantage, which means things could get really weird really quickly. And the US has been doing exactly that. Now, I don't agree with this primarily because of the comment on BRICS playing around with gold. It is a fact that central banks like those of China and Russia have been purchasing tons and tons of gold. And I personally cannot yet see how these kinds of governments will begin to do that same kind of thing in a crypto asset. However, everything else in here, I actually agree with a whole lot. So at this point, we will just have to wait.